ourselves. And we've actually known each other since the 1980s when we first met at Bloomsburg University. And it took me all these years later. Who would have thought we'd be working together, a few years later? So she is the inventor of Soul Intelligence. She actually works at Nutritional Frontiers now as our CGO, Chief Growth Officer. She's been helping me, so she has her hands full. And she's going to help us today improve ourselves and share with us some of the incredible things she's done for all of her clients, herself, and her family. So let's give a nice warm welcome to colleague and close personal friend of mine, my coach, Christine Glein. Welcome to the Wellness Week, Christine. And look at you. Where are you?
Wow, I am so excited to be here. Yeah, I'm actually on the other side of the state from you, Jamie. I am in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania, and behind me is the Delaware Water Gap. So really close to New Jersey, just where the Delaware River cuts through.
Yeah, I used to go past there all the time when I went from Long Island to Slippery Rock on my many journeys during college. It looks absolutely gorgeous out there, and we're excited to have you on. So can you explain a little bit about your background and what Soul Intelligence is?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. Well, first of all, it's an honor and a privilege to be a part of Wellness Week this week. I'm very excited. I've been fortunate enough to attend a number of the live events that Nutritional Frontiers has put on around the country. And I absolutely believe in the mission and everything that you do. And I really feel like you're helping people on a physical level. And a lot of the work that I do helps people on a mental, emotional, and spiritual level. So I feel like it's a complete package when we decided to link up. But
So mind, body, and spirit, we're connecting all the dots for everybody. And I think this is so important, Christine, because we like to have fun, of course, too. But, I think what we've been suffering with the last few years is that we took an unhealthy country, right, where the whole situation going on with COVID. And just as we predicted, the initial issues were with fear and immune system, right? And then it went into weight gain, right? Because people are sedentary and ordering all this food in, they're stressed out. And now here we are a couple of years later, and we see emotional dysfunction occurring at such a high rate. And I think that's really what my concern is, that this is just the tip of the iceberg. So what you're doing is miracles for people, and you're helping so many people out. And that's why we're so happy you made time for us today, because people are really struggling on an emotional level. And they don't really know what to do or how to go about it. So thank you for sharing all your wisdom, because people now more than ever need this. Me, of course, everybody. But I think right now the emotional dysfunction is my biggest concern for people.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to share with people what the power of Soul Intelligence is, how you tap into it, and how it can help shift. And really kind of talk about some of the root causes of chronic illnesses that people are suffering through, especially since post-COVID. But before I jump into that, I better give myself some credibility, right? So I was a corporate turnaround specialist, as Jamie referenced, for about 25 years. So it was all about streamlining the right people, the right processes, and then figuring out the right technology to make the business objectives, meet the business objectives. I was really good at it. I loved it. We were on year one of a planned 3-year turnaround, and we'd started to just make the turn. And I had received a performance evaluation, a performance bonus. And then I got a phone call letting me know that my services were no longer needed. And I was in complete shock. I'm like, what? So I texted my boss, who also told me that he was let go, like at the same time. So on March 12th, 2020, I lost my job for the first time ever. And at that same moment, my husband was undergoing a biopsy for prostate cancer. So my entire world turned upside down. So you want to talk about emotional stress, mental stress, spiritual crisis? I had pretty much it all going on. In my early 50s, out of work, shocked, depressed, in disbelief, all amidst the COVID pandemic, right? That's right when it was getting started. I couldn't even think about getting a job at that point because everybody was in panic. Like, what are we going to do? So even if I wanted a job, it wasn't going to happen. And, I went through all the phases of grief, right? Trust me, I wallowed in it, like denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. And I remember the moment when it shifted for me. It was actually after I completed an incredibly powerful meditation, where I had tears streaming down my face. I just knew I couldn't go back into doing a regular job in corporate America again. I knew if I did that, I would be betraying who I was. And I got really honest with myself. I had been going through the motions for a long time, and I really wasn't in touch with my true, authentic self. You know, I had tried all the things, checked all the boxes, but I wasn't following my path. You know, I wasn't listening to my soul intelligence, which was screaming at me now. So I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that it was time for me to come out of the spiritual closet and stand in my true power, like my zone of genius. And I think a lot of us operate in our zone of excellence for a long period of time because we're good at it, right? Sorry,
What's
I
the
have my,
difference, Christine? Because I hear these terms, zone
yeah.
of genius, zone of excellence. What's the difference?
So, you know, there's four zones, according to Brandon Bouchard, who wrote the book Average Sucks. But, you know, there's the zone of incompetence. That's me trying to fix a computer. Not going to happen. Should never do it. Then there's the zone of competence, things you're good at, but you should probably delegate out, you know, maybe taking meeting notes or something. And then the next level is your zone of excellence, something you're really good at. You know, you do it for a long period of time, people like you in it, you make decent money, and people see you as whatever that is. But then you get to this point where you recognize there's something more, there's something missing. And that when you tap into that zone of genius, that's when you can take your performance to a whole other level. And I knew for me that being in my zone of genius meant it was time to bring the power of soul intelligence to the world. So the very next day, I sat down and I emailed my doctor. You know who it is, Dr. Lisa Coach, an amazing physician and client of Nutritional Frontiers in Tampa, Florida. And I shared with her that the stressed out, plane hopping, fried adrenals woman that she knew also had a hidden talent. And I explained how I was able to shift stuck energy, so negative emotions, thoughts, self limiting beliefs, without someone having to relive the trauma that caused it. And so I cleared my afternoon and I told her, I know you're busy with patients. I'll just wait till you're available. And so I actually started with one of her colleagues in the office. And magically, her schedule cleared thanks to the divine. I swear there was divine intervention because they're always so busy. And the first doctor had such a powerful release that she was crying. She was amazed at the accuracy of the information that I shared, that she like spilled her water all over the floor, which typically means your emotions are just flowing. They're coming out of you. And at that very moment, Dr. Lisa peeks in the room and goes, wow, wanting to know how the session was going. And she goes, okay, I'm next. And it was game on. So,
Well,
right?
that's an incredible story that you had with her because that's how me and you connected. But I do want to just go back slightly. You had
Sure.
mentioned these five phases, right, of dealing with something, right, to the acceptance phase. Do you find a lot of people never progress all the way through? And is that something you can help them with? Because I know if they're stuck in grief or denial or anger, sometimes they can be stuck forever.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, it's why I partner with a number of different doctors, James, um, because there are different, when someone's suffering from a chronic illness, there is usually an emotional component to it, right? That keeps it locked in there. And so, yeah, a lot of people get stuck in all the phases of grief. And that's, I think, what you were referring to in terms of post COVID, what people are going through. So, right. And so a lot of times we don't even know what it is. And that's because the way our mind works, right? We only use 5% of our mind when we're thinking for all the decisions we make, all of those important things. Can you believe that? 95% of what's going on is that subconscious mind. Now, I'm grateful the subconscious mind is there because otherwise we'd stop breathing when we're sleeping. But that's where most of all of the negative energies, emotions, stuck beliefs, repetitive thoughts on loop, like really suck us down. And so our subconscious mind is really, really powerful.
Yeah,
And
this exciting world of this neuroplasticity where you can change the way the mind works You taught me that the best time is right before bed and right in the morning, right? So you can share
Absolutely.
a little bit about some of those exercises you teach people to do because those have been life changing.
Absolutely. And that's part of what I talk about when I talk about soul intelligence. I use something, well, I guess the best way to put it is it's a technique where you can actually brainwash yourself, okay, in its purest form. So I know everybody's probably familiar with the concept of brainwashing, but you can do it to yourself for good. So, how brainwashing works is you control the messaging, you repeat the messaging, you um, then you isolate someone, and then you make sure that you reward with fear or love, right? So I guess I should have started that. We isolate, we control the messaging, we repeat it, and then we make sure that we reward with love or fear. And so I have a technique that I use with my clients I call it the Sacred Soul Script, but it's basically something that allows you to change your beliefs. And if anybody is interested in getting a copy of that, you can put a note in the comments and just say, um, Sacred Soul Script, and you can put it in there, and I'll be happy to get it to you. But it's a way for you to script out and throw information out into the field, the electromagnetic field that's around you, that's around me, that's where everything comes from, the quantum field, and allow that information to come into you. As a matter of fact, it's something that I'm going to talk to you about in just a few minutes on how do you tap into this power soul intelligence and how do you start creating the life you really want instead of the life you feel you fell into. Um, for me, once I let go of that old rope and I made the decision to follow my intuition and tap into the power of my soul intelligence, that's when everything opened up for me. It was really taking a leap of faith in spite of what everything looked like on the outside. You know, so to this day, my doctor, along with a number of medical professionals, actually send me patients. I work on them, I work on their families, their staff, and friends and associates. And so I do that because when I partner with them, for example, Dr. Lisa Coach has what she calls the 11 pillars of health. And she starts with physical things first, right, to try and get people some um, wellness. So a lot of things start in the gut. And I know Nutritional Frontiers has tons of products to help you with those kinds of issues. So her protocols start in the physical and then move into her 10th pillar is mindset, and her 11th pillar is spiritual or energy work. And that's where I actually help people continue to shift things out. So, you know, really what soul intelligence is, it's the why behind the what, right? It's really more than your intuition, but it's tapping into your divine light and knowing your purpose. And so many people are walking around disconnected from our divine self, right? We get caught up in the busy and the doing that we don't take time out to experience the being and meditating. And so, one of the things that I try and do is to get people to tap into the power of soul intelligence and to get quiet enough so that you can hear that voice. And so that you can actually experience life from this place, this wondrous experience place of learning, as opposed to feeling like everything is happening to you. So, you are totally in the right place right now if you're feeling frustrated and you can't seem to break through a plateau personally or professionally. If you're tired of feeling stuck mentally, emotionally, physically, or even spiritually, if that's you, you can just write me in the comments. Um, and you want better outcomes. So, what I'm going to be able to share with you is I'm going to talk to you all about energy and how it works and how it affects you in ways you never had any idea about. I'm going to share some really good stories with you so that you have practical ideas on how this actually works. And no, I'm not going to share anything personal about Jamie, so he's not going to be one of my case studies right now.
Oh, thank God. Are we live, Phil? I thought she was talking to me the whole time here. We got millions of people listening. I think it's about me. But one of the comments I want to make is that, and especially, recently, when I was working with you, it got me to really understand, because I listen to Tony Robbins, some other things, but it got me to really understand that I have control of this, not control out there. Can you comment about that? Because a lot of people seem to be focused on everyone
Excellent.
else, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So the expression I use is that we have to up level from within, right? And everything on your inner world right? When you're in a full alignment mentally, emotionally, spiritually, your IQ, your EQ, and your SQ is all in full alignment, then whatever is going on internally is what's actually reflected in the external world. And so many of us focus on everybody else, like, why is this person doing this to me, instead of looking at what are they reflecting back to me, and that life is happening for us, not to us. And so a lot of the stuff that gets stuck, right? We're all energetic beings. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about energy. And then I'm going to share some case studies with you. And then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how you can get a free session with me. And that is by being involved. So I would love to see comments. And the person that has the most comments, the most insightful comments across all the platforms that we're blasting is going to get a free 30-minute session.
I would think I'm going to win most insightful, so I'm going to comment away over here. So I need a free session. I think I need some extra sessions this week. So that's exciting because you've helped so many people. Can you talk a little bit about how you work with the doctors and how that's connected to you to us and helping so many people? So that's where it started with you and Lisa.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when that's exactly what I'm about to roll into. So, why things happen. People have tried affirmations or meditation or prayer or visualization or proactive thinking. And, has anybody felt out there like they've done it all and nothing works? Okay. Yeah, you could tell me in the comments. Well, you're going to want to write this down. But now more than ever, we're all just waking up to the fact that we're these spiritual beings having a human experience, and that we are all energy, right? We all come from the same spark of animation. We know this from 7th grade science class, right, Jay?
Right.
Everybody and everything is energy. We're this like ball of protons, neutrons, electrons, a vibration, and we all have an electromagnetic field. So just conceptually, that means energy can get stuck in people, places, or things, and they can get stuck in your energy can get stuck in your mental, emotional, spiritual, or physical body. So if we start with our minds, right, we started to talk about 95% of our brain being subconscious, all that activity, right? So how are you supposed to know what you need to shift if you don't even know how to get to it, right? Well, here's a big hint. Your physical body gives you clues every single day. And that's really where the power of soul intelligence comes in. It allows you to access all that information without you having to relive any trauma around it. So when we talk about the quantum field and physics, it's an electromagnetic field. And it all starts with that electric spark, that IQ, that idea, the intellect, the ideas that come from your brain. But that's the spark in the electromagnetic field. What magnetizes things and brings it into you is the emotions. And emotions are energy in motion, the magnetic part. And that's the amplifier that collapses the particle wave and brings something into you. So emotions really are the secret. And if you think about it, if you were raised in corporate America, there's no crying in baseball, there's no crying in corporate, right? Stuff those emotions, people. Here's how powerful the heart is. And it's interesting to me, Jamie, you have some statistics on what are the 3 key diseases that affect us as in the United States?
Yeah, there's still the number one killer of people in the U.S. is heart disease, cardiovascular disease. It doesn't have the sexy ring of COVID or these other things, Parkinson's, but it's still the number one killer, in spite of the fact that they launched this whole campaign with cholesterol-lowering medications over 20 years ago, and those have become $50 billion categories. In spite of all that, heart disease, not only for men anymore, but also for women, it used to be mostly men, is the number one killer of people in the U.S. Number 2 is cancer. We've all had family members. I know we're praying for Dow right now. We've all had family members or friends or ourselves that have suffered from this. But those are still the top 2 killers in the U.S., cardiovascular disease and cancer.
So think about this. Our heart is not just this random pump in our body. It actually, if you could study from the Heart Math Institute, your heart actually has a 6-foot wide electromagnetic field around it. That is like 3 times as big as the brain, yet we spend so much time up here and not enough time in here. So if you can get your heart and your mind in coherence, right, your subconscious is going to take over because that's what it listens to. It always magnifies the feelings. So I want to share with you how powerful emotions truly are, right? Emotions like fear and jealousy and guilt have a very low vibration, right? If everything is energy, everything's a vibration. Yet emotions like love and peace and joy vibrate much higher. If you look at Dr. David Hawkins, he has a consciousness scale in Power versus Force. You can actually see all of the scientific evidence on how they've measured emotions. So no judgment here. Has anybody ever stuffed their emotions, right? Not dealt with them? Too
Once
busy,
I did one time. Yes.
like you're too busy, your partner doesn't want to hear it, your family, friends, clients all come first. You're last on the priority list. Sound familiar to anybody out there? Well, that's what happens when we stuff emotions. When emotions get trapped, they manifest dis-ease within your body and can cause chronic illness. So, any Louise Hayes fans out there, she wrote a book called Heal Your Body A to Z, and she talks about the root causes of disease based on emotional roots. So, trapped emotions cause a dissonance in your frequency, kind of like a broken radio antenna, okay? And it typically is what sends you to the doctor, right? And so I mentioned earlier how my husband was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Well, what caused it? Well, many people talk about, a lack of nutrients in our food, an unhealthy lifestyle, exposure to toxins, and sure, those are all contributing factors. However, the prostate, if you think about what the prostate does within the body, it is the male energy center. It's the driving force to produce, right? It's so to describe his situation, my husband had really lost his drive to produce in the world after our largest client at the time owed us $250,000, and we had to sell our business. And so he felt like he lost his purpose. So he went into a deep depression. He stuffed his emotions, didn't want to deal with it. That doesn't sound like a guy at all. And manifested it in the form of cancer in his prostate, right? So now that it's in the physical body, we have to address it. You can't ignore it anymore. So the dissonance in his frequency was too great. So his body was telling him he had to get to the root of the problem. Well, here's what happened. So he had his prostate removed in the spring of 2020, but his PSA, which was a marker as to cancer growing in the body, kept rising. He underwent radiation in the summer of 2021, but his PSA kept rising. So earlier this year, we were introduced to a really good friend of Jamie's, Dr. Len Bransowitz, who suggested my husband use Nutritional Frontiers Power Cleanse Shake and Proline Greens twice a day for 6 weeks. And then we'll retest the PSA levels and see what happens.
A
Guess
lot
what?
of pressure he's putting on us, right? A lot of pressure. I'm like, Len, could you give him anything else? He's like, that's all they need for now. I'm like,
So
I want to bring out all the guns. I want to give him a really good.
the whole show, the whole show.
Len said, that's it. I said, okay. And I love what Len, the approach was, because sometimes people in natural health want to overdo it, right?
Too much, yeah.
He says, look, he needs the food, he needs all the superfoods, and he needs to balance his pH. Don't give him too much too quick. So I'm glad he did that, because Daryl was compliant. And what was his results?
For the first time in 2 years, we retested. His PSA levels went from 0.2 to 0.1. So it's pretty incredible how
crowd's going crazy,
right? So when we talk about up-leveling from within, that includes what you're doing to the physical body, right? Supporting your inner body chemistry can also help shift when something has manifested in the physical. So up-leveling from within, right? It's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. It's listening to your body's wisdom, and connecting with your soul intelligence. So I can talk about another client, give you another example, who ignored her emotions and what we did to shift things energetically for her. This lady was always last on the priority list, her kids, her work, her ex-husband. And then suddenly she started developing chronic conditions that wouldn't go away. Has anybody gotten sick out of the blue? Yeah. So by the time she was referred to me, she was actually referred to me by a doctor. She was on medical leave from her nursing job for nearly a year. She had shingles. She was depressed. She was alone. She was under doctor's care, and she's miserable. And she had been suffering for, I think, nearly a year before I started to work with her using my soul intelligence method. She was really struggling with and wasn't showing any marked improvement. She had insomnia, really a lack of obviously no personal life, right? She's hiding in the house. And she didn't want to go back to her really stressful job. And before she met me, she tried everything. And I mean everything: medication, therapy, tapping, Reiki, kinesiology. I think she tried theta, acupuncture, ketamine, like mindfulness and more. And she didn't have a shift. She wasn't transforming. So she was really depressed, right? And desperate to move forward. So using this method, we figured out what the root cause of her chronic illness was. And once we did that, she immediately had some relief of her symptoms. Her anxiety lessened. She began sleeping through the night.
What is that underlying cause? Because what we do in functional medicine is, we've been chasing the cure for years for heart disease and cancer and all. We're never going to catch it, right? So we always say focus on the underlying causes. And for our area, it's mind, body, spirit, toxicity, nutritional deficiency. So what was this woman presenting with as the underlying cause from your work with her?
Yeah, I mean, she had to start, healing a lack of self-forgiveness, true compassion, and her actual root, like what caused the shingles itself, was deep-seated fear, tension, and dread of like what's going to happen next, like waiting for the next shoe to drop. And she was also extremely sensitive to other people's energy. So think about that. In the hospital, when people are sick, they're at their worst, right? So she was very empathetic, and with this demanding job, and she had an unappreciative boss at the time, um, she really needed to recover and get the physical symptoms under control so she could go back to work. So we released that energy that was stuck, and there were things stuck in the mental, emotional, and physical body. So traditional coaching would have said, well, just get another job. Change your external environment, which it probably would have worked for a little while, but then she would have been in the same position, right? Because she didn't get to that root cause. And so to reinforce the point, often we think what needs to change is outside of us when you really need to work on what's within us and up leveling from within.
I got a great question for you.
Go
Okay.
for
And I know you have a great answer.
it. Okay.
People talk about doing therapy versus coaching, and I've
Yes.
experienced both. Can you explain the difference and why one may be more beneficial to you than others?
Absolutely. Coaching is all about where you are today and where you want to go. So it's very forward focused, very forward thinking. Therapy usually is about how did you get to this place and why are you so messed up right now? Right now, there's value in both. Okay, I kind of make fun of it. I actually work with a number of psychologists, so they're going to give me a whole lot of crap about this one. Um, and But the idea is, yes, there is some benefit to understanding what got you here, but that's where the Power Soul Intelligence method comes in. We can figure out what that is, and I can actually help shift that without you having to relive all the trauma, right? Therapy, you got to talk about it, you got to go back and experience it.
As we're
You
going to
know,
revisit, all my struggles, right? It's like, all right, we all know it. Can we move forward at some point? So I
yeah,
think there's a value for that. But to me, it was very short term. And then when I met you, it was like, okay, now we got a plan to move forward. We may look back a little bit, but we want to move forward. And, as you say, it's progress, not perfection. Can you believe
right.
I said
I am
progress?
so excited. Look, there's impact. It's so good. So, just curious out there, has anybody ever struggled with clarity of purpose or self doubt or lack of self esteem or maybe a bit of imposter syndrome? If that's you, you can give us a yes. You can give us a yes in the chat. So me. Well, I'm sure that everybody's done that at one point in their life. Certainly, you're not alone. I had another high profile client.
Say
Um,
that again. Hold on. You're not alone, right? Because
yeah,
I always look at everyone else and say, oh, they really got their act together. They're financially stable. They're healthy. They have great relationships. Their kids love them. Their spouse loves them. Their family, I have that perception of that, but you share with me that's not really reality. they made you just as, struggling as me or as everyone else, right?
Absolutely, right? I think everybody goes through periods of that. Um, so remembering that you aren't alone, like other people are going through the same thing, I think that does help to understand that. So one of my other clients, we'll call her Belinda, because I can't give away client confidentiality. Although I did just blast my husband. He's going to be like, seriously, you just put me up
I
on.
say, thank God she said, Phil, she's not going to get personal about me. I'm like, thank God. And then here comes Daryl.
I know. He's going to give me a hard time later, but it is true. And it is good that he's in.
Hey, it's
So
coming
I'm
from
so
love,
happy.
right?
So, another client of mine is a CEO of an impact company, a company that's making a difference in the world, like Nutritional Frontiers. And she had gone through a really painful divorce and doubted her ability to lead, actually.
Hmm.
She went through bouts of depression, kind of wondering what was wrong with her, self punishing, self doubt. She had a lot of sleepless nights, filled with anger and really kind of focused on the injustice of it all. And I think most business owners experience like this, um, doubting, like, can I do this? Can I really do this? Am I the right person to do this? Right. From time to time. I know I have. You don't have to admit, Jane, but I know I have.
Absolutely.
Well, and obviously at first she was reluctant to take action, right? She wasn't sure this energy stuff, was for her. Maybe it was even crossing a little bit of a woo woo line. Um, but she was really up against it. The pressure from her board was increasing and the stress from her team was really palpable. And she didn't have much of a personal life to speak of other than juggling her grown kids. So she took a chance on herself and she said, yes, all right, Christine, I'm all in. And after our very first session, we found the root cause of her imposter syndrome, right? Which was her insecurity of being left for a younger woman, right? She experienced some immediate relief. She felt like lighter, more peaceful. She actually started sleeping through the night again. And that really helped her slay her next board meeting. And so after that initial session, using all the information that we discovered in the very first soul intelligence session, I knew exactly what to coach around during our subsequent coaching sessions. It's kind of like being a detective, like a spiritual super sleuth. And throughout our work together, she was finally able to learn how to quiet her type A mind enough to go within, to meditate, and listen to her own internal wisdom. Right. So she was more centered, calm, peaceful, or somebody else I know says calm, cool, and collected. And she really had a new awareness for herself and her company. And she started to recognize that life was happening for her, not to her. And today her business is thriving. She's so much more confident in her ability to lead. Her company's growing. Certainly has an understanding. And she actually has a really fulfilling personal relationship now, and has experienced amazing shifts personally and professionally.
Amazing, yeah. There was three. I want to give somebody, everyone out there, a takeaway just right now. I know
Yeah.
from listening to all your podcasts and all your videos on YouTube, right? Christine Glein on YouTube. So I really like to enjoy listening to them. And I know that there's really three things you always talk about. One is eliminating distractions, right? And when I
Big
started looking at my distractions, I realized most of them are self-inflicted, right?
time.
We create our own distractions, and when you clear
Right.
those out, yeah, because we'll pick on the ones from someone else, but if we clear out our own, that one maybe not really bother us, right? So one was eliminate distractions. So you know, I keep progressing through, and I'm like, that's a big one right now. Eliminating distractions, like self-imposed. The second one I really enjoyed was like looking within, and I enjoy that with nature, right? So the other night you shared with me about the blood moon and the full lunar eclipse. So I was outside with my daughter, and I like to take pictures outside. So it's very peaceful in nature. And the third one was the belief system, right? So can you share a little bit about those, and it's just something that people could take today and start changing what they're doing?
Absolutely. I would love to do that. So, as Jamie referenced, we're human beings, not human doings. And we all get caught up in the busyness of life, right? Running kids here and there, or just having so many work obligations, or um, we're on the internet, we're on social media, we're watching TV, or we're doing Netflix binging, or we're running from thing to thing to thing, right? The only way for you to up level within is to actually reduce those distractions and really spend some time meditating, praying, sometimes being out in nature, right? I'm out in nature right now, it's super peaceful, is also a great way to connect. We all get caught up in the stress and busyness of life, but the only way you're going to get answers is if you can get quiet. And I know for a type A personality, that's really difficult. I was a type A personality, probably still am. But it's something that's brought so much more calm and peace and wisdom
And
into
I
my
think I learned from some of my clients too, and even when you came down, right? Sometimes we don't appreciate what's right in front of us, right? Like I love the beach. Everyone knows that, right? But I live in the mountains. So when people from out of town come, they're like, "What a beautiful city! There's so much character." You know, Mount Washington. You got the mountains. So I think sometimes we don't really just appreciate nature where we're at, right? You know, I was
absolutely.
sitting on the deck deal, and I'm like, "Wow, I got a pretty cool view here, right?" Not like the one you have, but it is pretty nice. So I think that can be applied anywhere, right? We don't have to go to
Absolutely.
some exotic location and wait for the vacation. It could start today.
Absolutely. And so, one of the things that I want to mention to you, too, one of the greatest gifts you can give someone is actually listening to them without distractions. You know, it breaks my heart when I see a couple sitting at dinner on their phones, like not even talking to each other. So, really putting that stuff away and connecting face to face. And I think that's part of what COVID taught us, right? Being separated from people, how important that connection truly is. So, give someone, and especially give yourself, that peace and that quiet and understanding. So for me, prayer is sending out the message, you know, sending out a request, and meditation is listening for the answers. So I really think they go hand in hand. So whether you know, pray to God or the divine or source or the universe, or you just feel connected to something bigger than yourself when you're out in nature, that's what it means to get in touch with your soul intelligence. And I live and love and lead from that place every single day. And there's lots of things you can do, like you suggested, Jamie, to support yourself to get in a space like that. And the most important thing is to remember it's a practice, which means you have to do it on a regular basis in order to get that benefit. But you really need to start with yourself. So many of us make everybody else in our life more important than we are. And then you're depleted and you're run down, and that's when you make yourself physically sick. And you got to call the doctor and Jamie and go, "Oh my God, something's falling apart. I need you, man." So,
Yeah,
speaking
there's
of
an
that,
interesting part of Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules of Life, right?
yeah,
One of them is treat yourself as if you're somebody that you are responsible for. If it was a
great one.
kid or a loved one or a neighbor or you volunteered, you go out of your way for people and treat them so nice. But people, you know, take it from somebody who's self-critical. You know, we don't always put ourselves in that same light, and that's something that I've been working on. They've been helpful with, is that you know you got to treat yourself that way because you know you deserve it and you're responsible for it, rather than always trying to, you know, be self-critical, which I think a
Absolutely.
lot of people struggle with.
Yeah, you need to love one another as you love yourself. That's probably one of the greatest statements ever made, right? From one of my favorite ascended masters of all time, the big JC himself. But it's really true. And most of us are more concerned about the other than we are ourselves until we get run down and we're forced into a timeout. So, to keep me from getting into timeout, I have my own favorite products that I use from Nutritional Frontiers. Um,
Drum
uh,
roll, everyone ready?
da-da-da-da.
Here we
Okay.
go. This is Christine Glein's top 5 or more formulas by Nutritional Frontiers. She's obviously lives the lifestyle. And I couldn't believe earlier, did she say she was 50?
In my
Oh
50s.
my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. I know.
Wow.
I know, babe.
Incredible.
It is what it is. So,
So living the lifestyle. So what are your favorites?
well, so to help my husband out, we tend to do the power cleanse and the greens every day because I know from you, if I do that, that's like the whole foundation, right? The whole pyramid.
You are an official member of the Shake a Day Club. We are accepting new members if anyone wants to join. Shake a Day Club, one shake every day. And you're doing the best one. The Power Cleanse in the Greens gives you your 90 essential nutrients you need every day. So if you did just that, folks, you'd be more than halfway there for your daily requirements. You got everything you need in that one shake.
So that makes me feel good. So I always do that. Then I typically do Women's Complete as my vitamin. I do Beauty Complete so that you can't tell I'm 50
Of
plus,
course.
right, Jay? um, I do some immune support too because I travel quite a bit. So I'll usually throw some powdered vitamin C into my shake, some vitamin D in there, and occasionally zinc if I'm feeling like I want to make sure I'm in a preventative state. So those are all good things to add in whenever you think you got to travel, right?
A
What's
woman's
in our
complete.
immune kit? What is in our immune kit?
What's in our immune kit?
Yeah, isn't it zinc, C,
Zinc, C,
D,
D,
and what's
Immunomax,
Immunomax? That's
right?
what I couldn't think of. Yeah.
And NAC, right?
NAC.
Quercetin. Even I need help. Quercetin. We went back and forth on that. So it's quercetin, D, C, zinc, and Immunomax.
So I think
So
everybody should have that. I actually bought that for my family. I'm like, look, we need this in the house, the just in case kit, the pull the rip cord if the COVID comes. So I think everybody should have one of those.
so I remember you traveled out to Pittsburgh in January.
Oh
We
boy.
had beautiful weather for you. We actually went to Top Golf and it snowed. It was like a snow globe,
It was so
right?
cool.
Only you can do that, right? And then when you left here, you weren't feeling so good. So you can share with everyone out there, because I know you were concerned with getting sick when you were traveling back then. So what happened and what did you do?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I am so grateful that I attended your education event in the fall because after that event, you had a couple doctors and a naturopath who shared what their protocol was from a nutritional standpoint to be able to knock COVID out if you got it. So I remember waking up. I got home and I woke up that morning and I had a headache. And I don't wake up with headaches because I drink a lot of water during the day. So I knew I was good. And I was like, oh, this doesn't feel good. Then I'm like, I'm really tired. I only went to Pittsburgh. That's not a far flight. So I'm starting to go, oh. So I got up and I got the protocol of all the products I needed to boost my immune system. And I know I had COVID and we knocked it out in 24 hours. My husband started to feel funky. I'm like, you take it too. Gone. Like literally within 24 hours, it had no chance. So it's
Yeah, and
pretty
that's the key
powerful
with
stuff.
these things. I was so glad that you joined us in October down in Tampa, right? We had myself and Dr. Judy Mikovits and Dr. Tracy Straub. And, I was so excited you actually came and you attended the whole event. This was early on when we were working together. And then, this happened in January because a lot of people, what they do, Christine, and this is the challenge we have with functional medicine nutrition is they wait until they're sick, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's too late because when they say it's got to run its course, what that means it takes 2, 3, 4 days to get deep into your cells, and it takes how long to get out? Because how far can you go into the woods or the body? Halfway, and then you got to get out. So it's key to have the immune kit, and that's why we created the immune kit as part of your wellness cabinet. No more medicine
Absolutely.
cabinet, wellness cabinet. Like you said, hey, when we need it, it's there. So what I like to do with people for the immune kit is do one a day of each of them. And then when you're feeling that first sign or symptom for you is a headache, me, it's usually chills. I get hot and cold and I get achy. So if you already have it in your system and have it in your house, then you increase the dose when you need that acute relief. And what happens is that it won't become, the duration won't be as long and the intensity not as strong. So let's, earlier we were talking to Dr. Orbach, because rather than rehab, do prehab, right? And that's what we want to do. We want to have the pre
Prevention. Yep.
part of this. And then when you have the issue, if it's already in your house and in your body, you're not going to wait 3 or 4 days. It's too late. And that's why you and Daryl had such a quick recovery. So that's exciting to hear. We need to make sure other people understand the importance of having it in their house, having it in their body. And when you have those acute flare ups, increase the dose dramatically. I say 6 a day of each for that first week or two.
Well, the other thing that's part of my secret weapon, James, so I don't know if I should really share this. I'm an avid tennis player. So when I'm not in the Pocono Mountains with my mom, I'm back in Tampa, Florida, and I play a lot of tennis. And one of my secret formulas before I go to tennis in the afternoon.
Oh, here we go. You're going to let out the secret?
I'm
You've
going
been
to let out the
undefeated since this.
The creamsicle shake. I absolutely love it. So what is that? So it's the vanilla protein powder. So what's that called? I don't know
We
if
have
it's
this super
power.
shake or super
Yep.
shake or
Super
power.
Shake
Yeah, super
Vanilla.
shake.
Okay. Super Shake Vanilla. Then it's the orange, the oranges, the pro
Pro
oranges.
oranges.
And what does that do? That's energy, right?
Yeah, the Pro Oranges gives you a non-stimulant and energy. So it gives you cellular energy as ATP. It gives you
Hmm.
mental energy to help the neurotransmitters. So people get better. Because a lot of times when people get tired, especially these days, they're more mentally tired because they're stressed.
Well, then
And
I
that can
throw
be
in
during,
the orange power fuel, right?
there
So
you go,
I'm zipping.
trifecta.
And I swear
Yeah,
to
and the orange
God,
power fuel is going to give you more ATP production. It's going to inhibit lactic acid, so you're not going to get the burn as quick,
and the
and it
cramps,
doesn't
right?
slow down your burn or cramps. And then we
Yep.
have an electrolyte blend in there, like a healthy Gatorade, because that will help the muscles firing without cramping or fatiguing. And then we have some nutrients now in there, like arginine and citrulline, to help with circulation. So what a great combo! So we have the Super Shake as the base, Pro Oranges, and Power Fuel, and that's why you've been undefeated.
I'm telling you right now. And it tastes just like a creamsicle, like the creamsicle pop when we were kids and the ice cream man would come around.
Yeah.
Like, I love it. And it is my secret weapon. So now all my tennis friends will know. They're going to be like, hey, I want some of that. So,
They'll be lined up for it.
well, I really appreciate you having me here today. I want to let people know how they can get in touch with me if they want to work with me. You can contact me at Christine Glein Coaching. That's my email. You can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube, which I'm streaming to right now. Obviously, you can find me at Nutritional Frontiers because I serve as their Chief Growth Officer and I work with the team on helping everybody maximize their performance. Again, the person that's given us the most interactions today is going to get a free soul intelligence session with me. But if you're interested in exploring coaching or how we might work together, I do one-on-one programs as well as group and work with individuals and corporations. So you can just actually say, give me a note in the comments and let me know that you would like to schedule a free 30-minute exploration session, okay, which is separate from doing an actual soul intelligence method that I'm giving away. So, Jamie, thank you so much for having me today. I love being a part of Nutritional Frontiers. My life has been enriched by working with you and partnering with you, and it's a privilege to work with you and your team.
I appreciate you making time today. And folks, don't wait too long because I didn't know she had 3 hours, Phil. So I'm going to try and take some more hours from her. I didn't know you had more availability here. What's going on? So don't wait too long. This young lady is being highly sought after because she does incredible work. So if you want to improve yourself, you want to improve your life, improve your business, your relationships, whatever it may be, your health, mind, body, and spirit, the world expert is Christine Glein. I'm so fortunate and blessed to have her not only in my personal life, she's helped my family at Nutritional Frontiers in the World of Wellness. And she will be full-time eventually with us. She just doesn't know that yet. So thanks so much, my friend. I appreciate everything you're doing. Love you. And you are a blessing to the community, folks. So take advantage and reach out to Christine. Have a great day, Christine, and God bless.
Bye, guys. Have a good one.